the staff rely on service charge. So if the loss of the service charge, which would occur when the hotels cease operations, mean for those people they've already lost 50% of their income. Well, I've been in this business for more than 40 years, so that covers quite a span of time, and I think in terms of a situation which is truly global, I mean, it has spared no part of the world, even tiny little Pacific islands. There has never been anything like this. There have been even a global financial crisis, which was localized, I guess, in Asia in '97, but in 2008 a more global one. But even that had areas that were more directly affected by virtue of things that had happened preceding the actual crisis. So in terms of being as widespread, in terms of impacting on so many businesses, every aspect of tourism, I mean, from how people book it to how people, going to airports that have been closed, airlines that have not been flying, people that have not been traveling, hotels that have been not operating. I can't think of anything even remotely close to this situation. This hotel is highly dependent on convention business. All of the conventions in February, March were canceled. Most of them were postponed later in the year or the same period next year if it had a calendar year significance. In January, it was only impacted at the end of the month. So we were in the 80s, February in the 60s, March in the 50s, but overall average around 60%. But that is the peak season of the year for everyone. So if you're going to have a shortfall in occupancy, you prefer it to happen in your slow season, not your peak season. That occupancy represented about a 25% decline on previous year. In terms of total revenues, we were close to 2 billion baht, but that represented about a 30+ % decline. We may see some pickup, again, depending on if travelers from those countries can get here at the end of the year, but the real recovery for somewhere like Europe, North America, probably not before Q3 next year. There will be a new normal. Everything evolves. When something external comes into play, it maybe pushes that evolution a little bit faster. I would say technology will be a bigger factor. Making payments with apps and less contact by virtue of using technology to do things that otherwise you might needed to have contact. To check into a hotel outside the hotel, being able to use the app that you have to open to actually arrive in the hotel, so it would pick up on the fact that Mr. Smith has arrived or Kun Lek has arrived. It would then activate the door lock mechanism, or even the mechanism for the security in the lift. You'd be able to get to your room. You'd receive obviously notification of what your room is, the room you've booked, and you might go straight up to your room. Different standards will continue to exist depending on the positioning of the hotel. A higher level of automation in economy hotels, mid-scale hotels, still a higher level of personalization in luxury hotels. I mean, our first luxury Centara Reserve will have butler service. We'll call it by a different name. We'll have some very strong touch points to interact with guests. In terms of new investments, it is true. I mean, we had bullish plans. We wanted to. Our 5-year plan calls for us to go from around 70, 75, 76 hotels to 170 hotels. Mostly the development is on the managed side, but some of it also on the owned side and invested side. So some of those projects have been pushed out. But at the same time, I would say in situations like these, it can create opportunities that might not otherwise exist. Opportunities, what we're focused on is perhaps acquisitions of existing assets where we could purchase outright, we could provide support to the existing owner and have some kind of partnership which would work well for the individual owner who may be experiencing difficulties. It would work well for us because it would be a new property. And again, like the case of Samui, it would provide us with growth revenues for next year. Obviously, right now, we're in a down cycle. There's talk of whether it's a V and it'll go right up, or a U or a W. We'll see what it is. But one thing's for sure, the appetite of people to travel and see the world, I don't think will be diminished. On the short term, there will be pent-up demand to resume travel. And in the longer term, the more that we can collectively do to make it easier for everyone to get to different parts of the world on the budgets that they have available to themselves, the better. It still needs to be busy enough to create the vibe that is one of the reasons why people go to restaurants. They go for the ambiance. They also go for the food and beverages, but the ambiance is a big part of it. The ambiance created by the environment with everyone in it, the experience created by the service they receive from the servers. So those are still going to be vital parts. Will hotels be overrun with robots? No, I don't think so.